Nachombe na kwetu hichi haya misha chubulani nyingula chubulani nyingula chubulani nyingula. As people of this area, we never dreamt a day would come when we would see electricity in this area. This to us is a sign of good things ahead.
It is July the 14th, 2007, and there is much celebration in a remote corner of northwest Zambia. This is a beautiful part of Africa, once rich in game, though now much of the bush has been cleared for cultivation and trees. Still, there are many natural beauty spots and much to delight the adventurous traveller. This is the cool dry season in Zambia. And on this day, under a clear blue sky, the crowds gather. Local women, resplendent in traditional African dress, sing and dance, a veritable symphony of voices and melodies, as choirs and schools perform for the dignitaries from local, regional and national government. Tribal chiefs in their royal dress and businessmen in their smart pinstripe suits sit formally in the shade. Some cannot hide their joy and join the dancing. This is a time of jubilation, and everyone wants the best view. Today marks the dawn of a new era. Today they celebrate, as their area is connected to the first ever hydropower. There is still a long way to go, but to come this far is a cause for celebration in itself. The future is bright for these long-suffering locals. But why here? For many people and many years, this day was a distant dream, one that was born years ago, in 1906, when a missionary doctor, Dr. Walter Fisher and his wife, first settled here in the Kalani Hills and began a small clinic. This was the first ever medical establishment of its kind in this remote part of Africa. Almost in the exact middle of this vast continent. Along with the nursing school that was founded later, the clinic soon became well known throughout the world, with people travelling great distances to be treated here. It became apparent that its location on the top of Kalani Hill was too great an obstacle for many of the patients. So, in 1937, the new hospital was built at the current site at the foot of Kalani Hill. the enthusiasm of Dr. Fisher and his wife attracted other like-minded individuals, such as Mr. Tom Ray from Ireland, to come and join the work. Those who came soon regarded Zambia as their home, and many of their descendants are still here today.
My name is Charlie Ray, and I'm the engineer on the project at the Hydro, and we're seated at the top of Kalani Hill, which is the place where the missionaries came in the early part of last century. Now, the place we are sitting is called Proposal Rock, and the background behind me is where the Zambezi River flows, and the great famous Kaji School and Hillwood Farm, where Peter Fisher, now the great grandson of the original missionary, lives with a game farm.
As time progressed, the hospital work began to struggle. Technology improved in most parts of the world, along with medical knowledge and expertise. Yet here in Kalani, progress was much slower, with one of the key limiting factors being the lack of electricity. Power lines to this part of Zambia do not reach as far as Kalani. Indeed, the nearest point of the national grid is 380 kilometers away. Anyone who has ever experienced the everyday workings of a busy hospital will know how vital electricity is if work is to proceed on a daily basis. Imagine trying to perform even the simplest of procedures without decent light or the ability to sterilize the equipment. For some time, diesel generators have been used, and in the beginning, these were more than adequate.
This is the generator house for Kalani Mission. You can just about see the top of the radiator. Interesting radiator, it leaks and has to be filled up about every 2 hours with 3 litres of water. You can just about see the fuel tank to the top right. This is where the diesel is contained for the generators while they're running, and they burn about 300 litres of diesel a week. This 300 litres of diesel a week gives them power for 3 hours a night and about 2 hours on a Tuesday morning.
Healthy diesel fume, that's right.
Fuel prices have risen dramatically,
Diesels as well, there's always something going wrong.
and these smoky diesel guzzling generators began to prove too costly and unreliable, as they only provided power for those few hours each day. Add to this the total blackness of an African night. When once the sun goes down at 6 p.m, the darkness is all-consuming. You begin to realize how easily we take for granted the simplest of things, such as the ability to flick a switch and turn on a light. The solution to this problem lay 6 kilometers away in the form of the Zambezi Rapids, an ideal site to harness the power of water. Years earlier, in 1940, a primitive form of hydropower was initiated in the nearby Sakaji School, when the headmaster, Mr. Hess, installed a water wheel. This simple wheel has been going ever since. Later in the 1960s, at Zambian independence, plans were drawn up to develop a hydroelectric scheme for the Zambezi Rapids. But they remained as just plans. Then, in 2003, Dr. Peter Gill, a regular visitor to Kalani Hospital, once again recognized the need for hydroelectric power. Knowing about the 1964 plans, he triggered the process that finally brought electricity to this area. In pursuing his investigations, Dr. Gill was introduced to Charlie Ray, grandson of Tom Ray, who for a long time had the desire to develop the local community.
What you are seeing today is God ordained.
When they joined forces with other like-minded people, the Northwest Zambia Development Trust was formed. A feasibility study, which was funded by the trustees, gave an initial estimation of the cost for this project as $2.5 million.
And you can see the canal beside the river with the road that we had to make to the left side of the canal. This shows the area for the turbine house and the engineer's house to the right. This is the top of the rapids where the weir is being constructed. And this is a view of the rapids as we're now leaving.
The work began in earnest during April 2004. Interestingly though, at the time of commencement, there were no funds in the bank. From the very start, the Trust decided they wanted this to be more than just a project to supply power to the hospital. They wanted to use this opportunity to benefit the local community in the provision of jobs and the chance to learn new skills. A way of enabling the local Zambian people to take pride in their achievements. To attack poverty right at its roots. To provide education for their children, to encourage and attract business, to give them the resources to help themselves. All this consciously done as a demonstration of the good news of the Christian faith.
I think if one just considers that 70% of the population do not have access to electricity, it clearly gives us a number of opportunities, where this model can be replicated. And I think it's important that several other institutions take up what you have done, and spearhead it. Because this is a community project which has been developed by the community, and it's good to see Christians taking the lead. I don't think that we as Christians, should simply sit back and say we're waiting for the government. There are certain things that we must do for ourselves to improve the quality of life, for our people. Empower those people, make them create wealth and be prosperous. I think you need to be commended. Everybody that has been involved in this project should be commended for what they have done.
A huge undertaking such as this usually requires much heavy machinery and tools. But everything you see here is a result of sheer hard work, all done by hand, the old-fashioned way.
What you see now represents the only mechanized equipment on the whole site. A tractor and a compressor. And the compressor is driving these drills which are drilling into the solid pink granite rock. When they have completed a series of drill holes, then another team comes along with a set of sledgehammers and wedges.
"8,000 tons of rock were dug, broken up, sifted and moved by hand. before being carried by any means possible or available.
Pan out shows you the hole for the sump, where the turbine house has to be built with a suspended floor. This hole is 15 metres deep, blasted through solid granite.
As they worked, they sang and celebrated. The sheer determination and unfaltering enthusiasm of this small Zambian community, together with the belief and support of many others from many parts of the world, resulted in achieving the seemingly impossible.
Hello, my name's Daniel Ray. My family have been in this area for, well, I'm the 4th generation. My grandfather Darrell was one of the first instigators of this project, and together with my uncle Charles Ray, was how I came to be involved. It's the most amazing thing I've ever done, most amazing project maybe I'll ever be involved in. It was a remarkable privilege to work here with all the local people. I mean, there's a few of us who are qualified engineers who had some of the expertise, but it's the hands of all the villagers that live around here, they're who have built it, that's who we worked with, and it was an amazing privilege. In every aspect, it was so challenging, technically, managerial, managing a large labour force, and just living out here in the bush, no communications. I had to go 7 kilometres by motorbike in the evenings to get on email, to communicate, to look for supplies, order what I needed. But living in a tent for a year, I mean, with no power, washing in the river, it was an amazing experience. I've grown up camping, but to actually live for a year without any of these things is totally different. And, well, it has influenced me a lot.
Never before has such an ambitious project been constructed to such a high standard, purely by the local people, for the local people, with so little of the facilities we would take for granted.
It's been a real blessing to us to have power in the hospital at this time. There's a lot of things that we've been only dreaming about, but now finally we can put them into place. If you just look around me here, there's a lot of electrical equipment, but they've been sitting there just waiting for the power to come on, and here we have them finally and able to use them. It's really fantastic.
Since the start, many people and organisations, including the Zambian government, have supported the trust. The Vardy Foundation in the UK offered to match the funding, pound for pound, that the trust received.
And it's just wonderful to see the project finished. It's the thing that amazes me is the quality of the work that has been done. Obviously you can buy generators, put generators in anywhere, the equipment is one thing, but to see the work that the local people have done, the way that it's been, the rocks being blasted, the ladies have carried the rocks on their heads, and just the quality of the stonework that we see around us. It would have been so easy just to cover it in cement and make it cheap and easy. But what you've done and what you've encouraged the people to do is create something of real value, real worth, and really show the people out here what they are capable of doing. And I think if they have a vision of what they can do, then the future is secure. Now that you've given them power, it enables them to start businesses, to have some profitable organisations that will create employment, and I think we'll see this area transformed. And I can't wait till the second pipe is coming down the hill, the second set of equipment is in, and we're generating more power for this region.
Hello.
Without God, this thing could not have been achieved. What you are seeing today is God ordained. demonstration, not only in words, but in demonstration. Thank you so much.
ZESCO, the Zambian National Electricity Supply Company, supplied equipment such as the transformer at the substation, and many others, both individuals and companies around the world, gave their time and skills to see the project through to its end. Today, there is 24-hour power. Today, they celebrate a miracle.